The movie begins with a group of treasure hunters, led by Walter Moreland, who discover a hidden treasure deep in Spanish waters. After years of searching and researching, Walter and his team finally strike gold, literally. Excitement fills the air as they manage to lift the precious loot from the seabed. But their joy is short-lived. Just as they bring the treasure on board, Spanish customs and excise officers storm their ship. It turns out that Walter's company didn't have legal permission to recover the treasure, and the officers are there to arrest them. Walter faces a trial, where he is forced to accept that the treasure of Guadalupe, which he had worked tirelessly to find, will be seized by the Spanish government. The authorities decide to store it in the Bank of Spain, a facility known for its impenetrable vault that hasn't been breached for over 80 years, thanks to its advanced security system. The head of security, Gustavo Medina, is a highly skilled Special Forces veteran, making the bank even tougher to break into. Left with no other choice, Walter seeks help from an old acquaintance, Margaret, an MI6 agent in the British government. But Margaret informs him that the British authorities won't intervene, suggesting that Walter give up and let the treasure remain with the Spanish government. The story then shifts to Cambridge University, where a young engineering prodigy named Tom Johnson is being wooed by recruiters from top oil companies. They offer high salaries and luxurious benefits, but Tom dismisses them all. He finds their offers dull and lacking in excitement. During a dinner with his father, who works as an oil company executive, Tom gets an earful for turning down such promising opportunities. His father is visibly frustrated, but Tom remains unfazed. As he's about to leave the restaurant, Tom receives an anonymous text message asking for a meeting. The message contains clues that guide him to Walter. When they finally meet, Walter wastes no time and explains his bold plan. He wants Tom to help break into the Bank of Spain and access its legendary vault. Walter believes Tom's skills are the key to pulling off this heist. Without waiting for Tom's response, Walter hands him a plane ticket to Madrid, scheduled for the next day. When Tom arrives home, he immediately starts researching the vault at the Bank of Spain. He discovers that it's one of the biggest mysteries of the 19th century, a puzzle that has remained unsolved for over 100 years. Intrigued and excited by the challenge, Tom decides to accept Walter's offer. The next day, he catches a flight to Madrid. At the airport, he is greeted by Lorraine, a young woman who quickly leads him to a secret hideout. There, Walter introduces Tom to the rest of the team. Lorraine, a skilled con artist, Simon, a logistics expert, and Klaus, a talented computer hacker. Another man named James is also there, Walter's loyal partner and second-in-command from past treasure hunting missions. Walter explains that they need Tom's engineering skills to break into the vault where the confiscated treasure is stored. Tom agrees to help, joining the crew just as the 2010 World Cup is in full swing, with Spain aiming for the championship title. The bustling crowds and cheering fans in Madrid will serve as perfect cover for the heist. Walter and his team put together a plan to outsmart the bank's sophisticated security system. However, they must be cautious of Gustavo, the clever and diligent head of security at the Bank of Spain. According to the information they've gathered, the vault requires both a physical key and Gustavo's fingerprint to open simultaneously. Walter assigns Lorraine to go undercover and find a way to obtain Gustavo's fingerprint. Meanwhile, James and the others plan to access the vault room through the underground sewers. Tom's job is to figure out the vault's mysterious security system, a riddle that no one has managed to crack before. Tom must solve it quickly. If he fails, the entire heist will collapse, and they may never have another chance. That evening, Walter opens up to Tom, sharing the deeper meaning behind the treasure. It's not just about the money. It's the result of 30 years of relentless searching and hard work. Walter then tells the story of Sir Francis Drake, a famous English adventurer and pirate. Drake had attacked Spanish ships loaded with treasures from their South American colonies, but his ship was later sunk, along with all its riches, in Spanish waters. Among the recovered chests, 3 gold coins had unique engravings on them. These engravings were coordinates that pointed to a much larger fortune, one that had never been found. Hearing this story, Tom becomes even more motivated to complete his mission. Meanwhile, Simon listens to the broadcast of Spain's semi-final match against Germany in the 2010 World Cup the next day, Lorraine begins her mission to obtain Gustavo's fingerprints. At the same time, Simon and Tom disguise themselves as janitors to sneak into the bank. Simon makes his way to the systems room, where he installs a chip that allows Klaus to hack into the bank's security systems and surveillance cameras. With Klaus now in control, Lorraine moves on to her next task. She retrieves the key to the vault room from Gustavo's office and creates a nearly perfect copy. After visiting the bank and examining its structure, Tom finally deciphers the riddle of the world's most secure vault. He figures out that the vault is built on a massive scale beneath a large water reservoir. Any change in weight inside the vault would trigger the scale, causing the chamber to flood and drown anyone inside. To confirm Tom's theory, James and Simon quickly enter the sewers and discover a room directly beneath the vault. There, they find a massive pillar that acts as the scale's axis, proving Tom's hunch was correct. Later that night, Walter notices that all the bank's CCTV cameras are now aimed toward the streets, where a sea of Spanish soccer fans is celebrating Spain's match against Germany. Sensing an opportunity, Walter and his team decide to carry out the heist during the final match between Spain and the Netherlands. The crowd's excitement will redirect the cameras, creating the perfect distraction for the team to enter through the building's roof. Meanwhile, Tom continues to wrestle with the problem of how to enter the vault without setting off the trap that would flood the chamber. While he has thought of several possible solutions, he still hasn't found the perfect approach to ensure his team's safety. The clock is ticking, and Tom knows that one wrong move could cost them everything. Lorraine decides to take Tom to a nightclub, hoping to help him relax after all the hard work. While there, Tom notices a bartender freezing a glass using liquid nitrogen. This sparks an idea, and he rushes home to run a small experiment. He places a glass of water on a scale, watching the needle move as it measures the weight. Then, he sprays liquid nitrogen on the scale, and to his surprise, the needle freezes, preventing it from moving. This indicates that the liquid nitrogen can stop the scale's mechanism. Excited by this discovery, Tom shares his findings with Walter and the team. He explains that they could potentially use this trick on the massive scale that protects the vault of the Bank of Spain. However, they would need at least 500 liters of liquid nitrogen to make it work. By freezing the scale's mechanism, they could temporarily disable it, preventing the flood trap from activating while they retrieve the treasure. The team is impressed by Tom's clever solution, and Lorraine even praises his plan as genius. Tom, however, remains modest and calls it simple. Walter decides to move forward with Tom's plan, instructing Simon to secure 500 liters of liquid nitrogen. Meanwhile, Lorraine and the others work on creating fake vault keys and copies of Gustavo's fingerprints. They also refine their strategy for infiltrating the bank through the roof. Meanwhile, Gustavo, constantly monitoring the bank's CCTV footage, senses that something is off and tightens security measures. The following day, Walter discreetly makes copies of Sir Francis Drake's 3 gold coins for their own purposes. As the final match of the World Cup between Spain and the Netherlands draws closer, the team prepares for their respective roles in the heist. Simon positions himself in the sewers, directly beneath the vault with the nitrogen tanks, listening to the final match on his radio. Simultaneously, Tom, James, and Lorraine make their way onto the bank's roof, while Walter and Klaus monitor the situation from their base. Once Klaus hacks into the security system and CCTV cameras, Tom and the team manage to open the vault's door using the fake fingerprint and key. Elsewhere, Gustavo is on high alert and deploys additional guards throughout the bank, expecting a possible break-in. However, he is unaware that the CCTV cameras have been hacked, so he doesn't realize that Tom and the others have already entered the vault room. After Simon uses the liquid nitrogen to freeze the giant scales, just as Tom predicted, the scales malfunction, allowing the team to enter the vault without setting off the alarm. Tom's plan works, but the frozen scale starts melting faster than expected, putting them in a race against time. The team scrambles to find the target, Sir Francis Drake's collection of 3 engraved coins, which hold clues to the location of an even greater treasure. Lorraine manages to locate the 3 coins, but at that moment, Gustavo regains control of the bank security system, which had been secretly hacked by Klaus earlier. Realizing that Walter and his team had been spying inside the bank over the past few days, Gustavo quickly sends his guards to capture the intruders. The team's plan starts falling apart as Gustavo's troops close in. Walter then orders Tom, James, and Lorraine to surrender. However, James suddenly turns his gun on Tom, refusing to give up. He demands that Tom hand over the coins. James reveals that he is actually an MI6 agent working for the British government. The vault's door then slams shut, trapping them inside. Using his diving skills, James swims to safety, leaving Tom and Lorraine behind. Tom is forced to hand over the 3 coins as James escapes. With water rapidly flooding the vault, Tom urgently searches for a way out. He realizes that to stop the water, they must trick the scales into thinking the vault is already full by adding more weight. Tom instructs Simon to place the empty nitrogen canisters on the scale, hoping to create enough pressure to halt the flooding. But it isn't enough. The water keeps rising, and Walter, unable to contact Tom and Lorraine, fears the worst. In a desperate move, Simon climbs onto the scale himself, holding his radio to add more weight. This final act is enough to fool the scale and stop the water flow, saving Tom and Lorraine just in time. As the water in the vault started to drain, Tom and Lorraine were finally able to move more freely. They quickly escaped the bank, slipping into the crowded square where fans were celebrating Spain's victory over the Netherlands in the World Cup final. The chaos of the celebrations provided the perfect cover for their escape. Some time later, James delivered the 3 coins to Margaret at the British Embassy, revealing that they had been working together all along. However, when they checked the authenticity of the coins, they realized they had been tricked. The coins were fake. It turns out that Walter had foreseen James' betrayal. He had secretly created fake coins and given them to Lorraine, who swapped them out before James took them. Meanwhile, Tom, Walter, and the rest of the team were enjoying their success in St. Tropez, celebrating their clever heist. As they relaxed, Walter gathered the group to discuss their next big mission, which was set to take place 2 years later during the 2012 London Olympics. The adventure wasn't over yet. So the moral of the story is if you're going to break into a bank, make sure your heist plan is as solid as your backup plan. And always keep a stash of fake coins handy, just in case your partner turns out to be a double agent.